in the civil and criminal investigations in New York. In Georgia, the grand jury there looking into allegations of election tampering. And then there's that ongoing January 6th probe into the attempted government coup. So let's break it all down now with Trish Crouse. She is the practitioner in residence of political science at the University of New Haven. Ms. Crouse, thanks for being with us. Let's start with the latest. We've never seen a former American president take the fifth. And this is the guy who said only mobsters do so. You heard it just a moment ago. Was he right or was he smart legally today by taking the fifth?
Legally, probably a smart decision on his part, but you know, our experiences with the former president show us that he often says one thing and does another in his own actions. So it's hard to say if this is going to benefit him in the long run, but you know, it's ironic that his two children, you know, according to a reporter just said, you know, his two children kind of did actually cooperate with the attorney general. So it'd be interesting to see if it has any impact that, you know, maybe what his children said doesn't, you know, incriminate them, therefore they felt free to speak out, but what he would have to say would incriminate himself, so therefore he decided to plead the fifth.
You know, we're also trying to figure out how to frame things. It looks like the former president could announce a third term, so how should that be framed? Is it a guy who is running for office because he wants to improve America? A guy with a grudge, or a guy who realizes that being president could be his only get-out-of-jail-free card? Which is it?
You know, maybe a combination of all of them, but I think the more likely reason is, you know, the same reason he ran the first time when he won the presidency. It's a challenge for him. You know, he's a businessman, but he's also an entertainer, and I think he approaches everything in life with the view that I can do this. You know, I think we can see that he's, you know, not to be overly critical of his presidency, but it definitely had some flaws to it. He made some bad choices. He made some good choices. But for him, everything is about the show. So I think it's difficult to say, you know, that he's running because he's altruistic in the sense that he, you know, wants to better the country. I think this is fun for him, and he likes the attention, and I really think that's the reason for it.
I'm curious, as someone who studies this, is it troublesome that they spend an awful lot of time on the theatrics, on what he says, on him taking the fifth, on the various probes, what he may have said on his social media page, versus what he may do moving the country forward, or what he did when he was in office?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem is that, you know, everything is so public now. The internet, everything is available, everything is there for instantaneously. You know, his remarks that he made after going before the attorney general, that, you know, we have this instantaneous access to information, and therefore this is what we judge people by. So a lot of times we don't look beyond that, and that is a big problem. It's a big problem for my students. You know, they read all these things on, you know, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or whatever they're looking at, and sometimes this is how they're forming public opinions. And, you know, I come from a generation where we had no technology and everything was on the regular news. So we were basing decisions on just, you know, brief information. So I think that has a definite impact, and I do think the media tends to focus on that because that's what makes the news.
Yeah, they say.
But at the same time, I think.
I was going to say, they say the bright and shiny object. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
right.
I did want to get to that raid at his residence in Florida. What should justice do, the Justice Department? Some say they should account for what they did. I spent years actually covering organized crime. One of their tactics was to try to get the feds to play their hand. You know, show us what you got. So what should Merrick Garland's next play be?
I do think they need to be forthcoming. I think that the longer they go on hiding why they did the raid in the first place, that damages whatever it is they're going to try to achieve through the raid. You know, I disagree with people who say, you know, they didn't have any right to do this. I believe that had they tried to go the route of issuing a subpoena, they would have lost whatever it is that they were looking for there, that Trump either would have, you know, ignored the subpoena or he would have gotten rid of information. So I do believe they were right in what they did, but I think that they really need to be forthcoming about why they did this, what it was they were looking for, what it was they found. And I don't think that they can wait too long to do that, because people are going to get frustrated, no matter what party they come from. People are going to get frustrated with a lack of information, because one thing that transparency has been a problem. And I think that needs to be fixed.
I got time for one more question.
Okay.
15 seconds. They're giving me the wrap. We've seen so many firsts with this former president. One first that we could look at is actually, you say what they say can and will be used against them. He spent weeks on the campaign trail saying lock her up with regards to Hillary Clinton. Should America lock up a former president of the United States if he is found guilty?
That's a really tough question. In my mind, no matter who you are, you're not above the law. And if you break the law in this country, there are consequences for that. I'm not sure some of the things they're accusing him of warrant him being locked up. But I do think there should be repercussions. So I do think that there has to be some price to pay for what he does. But Trump seems to be sort of untouchable in a lot of ways. So I'm not sure that that's actually what will happen.
It is a tough question.
It is a tough question, and it's one that we're going to be dealing with for weeks, probably into the 2024 election.
A lot of first. Political expert Trish Crouse, thank you for your insight and your perspective.
Thank you.
Still ahead, veterans and their families and their supporters all celebrating the passage of a new